Two teams with the exact same start to the season as the other come up against each other tomorrow at 12:30. Of course, Des Buckingham's Oxford side welcome the visit of our Stephen Schumacher's Stoke City side in a game where there's nothing to separate them. Both teams 6 points in the league after 4 games in this league season. Of course, 2 wins and 2 losses, so nothing to separate them just yet. But with that, let's preview our opposition, looking at Oxford's key men and, of course, a bit of a tactical analysis on how the game might go. Now, as always, we love to take a look at the key men that Stoke need to be wary of tomorrow. And of course, with that, someone who is banging form, 4 games, 4 goals consecutively. And it's good to see that, of course, a player that maybe struggled at times and wasn't able to get the goals that he wanted at Cardiff has moved to another club and been able to do that. And it's Mark Harris. What a player he is for Oxford at the moment. Of course, joined as a free agent last year and of course joined them in League One and has moved and adjusted to the Championship and got the goals. You know what? When you say about players that were going to be up there this season in terms of goals, maybe Mark Harris wasn't going to be top of the list, but he started off well and hopefully he'll look to continue that form. But you know what? It's going to be a tough test against a player like him. When you've got a player who's banging form and knows where the back of the net is, of course, it's going to be a tough test. Now, in terms of that and looking at who Stoke might play in terms of the 2 centre-backs, who would you go for? Of course, Mark Harris brings a lot to his game. He really does. I think on the ball and off the ball, that kind of tactical side of the game, him being a striker that has got a bit of pace to him, but also that kind of tactical and experienced side to the game. But you know what? I do think whether it's Gibson, whether it's Phillips, or whether it's Wilmot, I think they could do a real good job of him and of course maybe stop him from having that kind of 5th goal that he gets in his consecutive games. I think that's huge for Oxford. A player that's going to go banging form, and I must agree, and I think a lot of Stoke fans would agree, if they had a player like that who's constantly scoring, and hopefully we get that with Tom Cannon, then it's a real confidence booster for both the team and, of course, the players. So for me, he is their key man right now, the man that's really helping them to get up there. And of course, they got some big wins so far. Of course, 2 wins and 2 losses, so a bit of a balance so far, a bit of a balanced start for them. But when you've got a player like Mark Harris who scored against Norwich, scored against Preston in their wins at home, what more can you say about it? I think it's so good and pleasing for home fans when they know they've got someone leading the line that is going to get them the goal. So for me, out of all the players, and I think they have a lot of quality in their side that of course could be a threat for us and have been a threat at the start of this Championship season, I definitely say that Mark Harris is one of them. So looking at who else they have in their squad and in terms of Des Buckingham's side and what he wants them to play in that kind of tactical side to the game, I think some of the signings they've made has been quite good. I think it's quality signings. I think what sometimes when you need in terms of a newly promoted side who have just come up into the league and don't want to bounce back down again, you have to have that mix of course, the young quality players that are knocking on the door and have wanted a point to prove in a way, want to show what they're made of, and using the loan market is a key way of doing that, but also having that balance of that Championship experience, the players that know the league, have done it years and years and years, and I know what the demands are and what it kind of requires of a player and how you should see out games that of course gets you the valuable point in this league. So for me, you look at it, the likes of Matt Phillips, the likes of Will Vaulks, if obviously they stay injury free, and of course like they have been at the moment, like Matt Phillips who's been playing off the right for him, that valuable experience of seeing out games and getting the wins, which they've already done, can be key with obviously the more experienced lads in the squad, but also the kind of younger lads that they've brought in. Of course, Dane Scarlett, you've got Malcolm Aboué as well, Louis Sibley who they brought in on a permanent. So I think you look at it and Des Buckingham's looked at his squad and gone, there's a real fight there, and that's the reason why they got into the Championship. They were 10 points off Bolton when it came to the playoffs, so everyone went for Bolton to get promoted in the playoffs, and it was that hunger, that desire, and the kind of tactical side to the game that Des Buckingham and his side brought that obviously got them promoted in the end. So I think there is a good mixture in that squad. I think you've got players like, say, Dane Scarlett, who there's a reason he's been let out on loan. There's a reason why, you know what, right, let's keep him and let's watch his kind of development. Let's send him off to, of course, a team like Oxford, give him the game time. And a player like him with that quality is obviously going to shine. But when you've got someone in form like Mark Harris, then it's going to be very hard to see yourself in the team week in and week out. But I do like the balance that they've got in the squad. I think there's a good core there, mixed in with, of course, the lads you brought in on loan, Malcolm Abue as well. I think the kind of attacking flair and the attacking kind of prowess of what Oxford have, both on the bench and on the pitch, could be quite key. It's just whether they can stay injury-free, whether they can obviously adjust to the Championship compared to League One football. But I think what we've seen so far has been good signs. I really do. I think obviously even in the 2 losses, they only just lost to Coventry in that 3-2 loss. So it's one of them where if on a different day, if it was at home that they played Coventry, would they have won that game? And of course, they've won their last 2 home games. So for me, I think from the tactical side and in terms of Oxford's squad, I think it's a decent squad. And for me, I think they have surprised a few. And I think, and in a way I hope, but obviously not in the game tomorrow, I hope that they do kind of have a good time. I think if they carry on what they've been doing, that they were doing before the international break in terms of threatening teams, and this is a team that they played against Preston, they played against Norwich. These are teams that aren't walkover teams. They aren't teams that, you know what, you'll go into it and go, we're going to get the 3 points easy. They've done that, and I think that is superb. And I think they've played against a Norwich side where, on paper, you look at both squads, Norwich should be a bit further ahead, should have that lot more quality in there. But you know what? This is a Championship. You never know what's going to happen, and maybe Oxford are the team that, of course, like Ipswich were last season, were the ones that everyone's not going to maybe see as having that good season, but are going to do that and maybe are up there this season. We'll have to see. But in terms of this Stoke game, I think it'll be quite an interesting one away from home for the Potters against a tough side. So let's take a look at the more tactical side of how Oxford might threaten us. Talking through the kind of tactical side of the game, I think, you know what, it's going to be an interesting one. I think from a more neutral point of view, even though it's, of course, a 12:30 kickoff, you look at it and you say it's quite an interesting tactical side to the game in this one. I think Des Buckingham had a real good kind of season last season with League One, and how he got out of the league and how he just played. I think he mentioned how he was a lot more attacking. I think it was one of the most aggressive sides, in League One last season. So he said how he had to adjust this season, and obviously we've seen it ourselves. When you go too aggressive with your press, teams like West Brom who pass around so well and 1 and 2 touch passing, that going out of the press is so easy, and we're opened up like anything. So I think this season they might not be able to be as aggressive as they were last season in terms of obviously with that press and how high they go for their press. But of course, when you look at it, and in terms of Des Buckingham's style of play, of course they play a more of a 4-1-4-1, 2 advanced midfielders who of course will go up against our 2 more defensive minded midfielders, and then more of an attacking wide men. They like to get high up the pitch, which could then maybe mean that our fullbacks have to drop. But I think it will be a case of battles, and in terms of their kind of individual battles is where either side might have the freedom in this game. So one of the places, as I mentioned, the 2 advanced midfielders of Oxford's side. You've got Brannigan, you've got Rodriguez, you've got Sibley who could play there. I don't know who may play there. I don't know if there's any of them that are injured for this game, but I do think that then means if we're in a 4-2-3-1 and they're obviously in that 4-1-4-1, it is like for like, it's player for player. And you'd say if it's kind of Berger and Moran that are playing in that kind of sitting behind Jun Ho, it is like for like, and who's going to have the freedom, and who's going to press, like the way they're pressing in that midfield, who's going to kind of dictate that press, and in terms of like how high we're going to go for, how aggressive would we go on them. But then the individual battles, I think Berger, would he then go up against Brannigan? Would it then be Moran that obviously is up against Rodriguez? So, and I think what both of them have, both sets of players have, is that attacking flair, but also that defensive-minded side to their game as well. So I think it will be about the battles in that midfield. And for me, I did predict it on the match preview about kind of who I think might be a key player in this game. And I did say that I think Jun Ho might have the freedom. I think when you obviously you've got more attacking midfielders and that more room that obviously Jun Ho likes to have, I think with him being put against that number 6 of Oxford's, and that's the way that they want to set up, if they do that and only have one defensive-minded midfielder, I think Jun Ho could possibly run rings around him, have that freedom, take him on, and that's where we have the freedom, and that's where we kind of allow us to get the ball moving and play on the front foot, getting Jun Ho on the ball, maybe passing through the lines, and that's how we turn from defence into attack. So I think from that side of the game, in terms of that midfield and the 3 that will be in midfield, I think it'll be interesting to see who's winning their battles in terms of obviously who wanting to get on the ball, who's being the aggressor, but also who's willing to kind of take the game to the other, and who's like Jun Ho, like our creative midfielders, who's willing to get on the ball, get us moving and get the link up going. So it'll be an interesting one, and I'm quite excited to see how we do, and of course who lines up in this game, because for all I know, Oxford might go to a maybe 2 defensive-minded midfielders with one ahead. I'm not too sure. We'll definitely have to see on that one. But another thing I did mention with, of course, this Oxford side is they like to have their wide men high, nice and high. Of course, they had Murphy last season, who of course has left as well. But they have some solid wingers. I really do think they do, and who could be a threat. And we obviously, Bocat and Shamadou will have to be wary of when they actually go up the pitch. When are they going to choose their moments to obviously press, but also help the team? Because like you saw against Norwich, and in terms of how they had their freedom and obviously how they won the game, is a lot of the time they caught them on the break, and the fullbacks were nowhere to be seen from obviously Norwich's defensive point of view. Nowhere to be seen. There's the freedom for the wingers, and they're able to get a chance away and possibly score. So I think we have to be really wary with how aggressive we go in terms of attacking, but also how we look at the game and we go, right, where we're going to have that balance in our back line. When are we going to choose the moments to obviously get up the pitch with of course, Bocat and Shamadou, who are superb in terms of getting up the pitch and being involved in our attack. So I think it'd be an interesting one. I think I've mentioned already the 2 centre-backs having a job with Mark Harris. I think on the ball, of course, getting his goals, that's superb to see. But also off the ball, I think what he brings to his game, and of course what he brought to the game in their playoff final, he loved to kind of take out their centre-backs, kind of go to the ball and play in like a number 10 or a false 9 role, go as if he's going to get the ball and suck the defenders in, put the space in behind, and of course the pacey wingers have that freedom, and that's how they play on the ball, and that's how they get up the pitch and create their chances. So I think we have to be really wary with how kind of Oxford will play. I think they could obviously, if they are able to be on the ball or maybe able to work it quicker and have a tempo to their attack through the likes of obviously Mark Harris or Brannigan or whoever, I think that's then when we need to be really wary of how aggressive we go as well. So it'll be an interesting tactical side to the game. I think, you know what, we've got some real creative players. I think we've got quality in our side, and hopefully it's one of them where who will take possession. I think you look at how Oxford have won their games. It's been quite a balanced possession in terms of the stats from it. So it'll be interesting to see who has the more chances. Will it be more end-to-end, or will it be more that either side are struggling to break one another down, and it's looking for a bit of quality to take the game? But you look at it, it's a home game for Oxford. They haven't lost at home so far. Could that kind of be the one that gets them over? That's their advantage for this game. A home in front of the crowd, and they're going to get behind their lads, and that's what gets them the 3 points. We'll have to see. I think it is all about the battles. I really do. It'll be interesting, and hopefully our Stoke boys can get the job done, but we'll definitely have to see with that one. Well, a first game since 2001 between Oxford and, of course, Stoke. It'll be interesting to see what happens, as we mentioned, both on the same points, a similar position in the league table, so nothing to separate them just yet, but we'll have to see what happens. Hopefully, not a 0-0 draw. Hopefully, Stoke come away with the 3 points, but it won't be easy. We can't take them for granted, and of course, they are at home and are unbeaten in the 2 games that they've had so far. So until then, we'll see what happens. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.